Well, one of the things is that mindfulness strengthens your prefrontal cortex, which is the front part of your brain. So if you just put your hand on your forehead, that's where the prefrontal cortex is. And that's really important because that's the part of your brain that helps you make sound decisions, get up in the morning, achieve your goals. And so it's really important to be able to develop that part of your brain in order to achieve success in your life. So mindfulness definitely helps with that.
And you have an interest in martial arts as well, don't you? So how does that all figure into this?
So I think martial arts for me, and I've been doing it for the last 40 years, is really mindfulness in action. You have to be completely present in order to have that practice and see it actually fulfill itself in the experience. And, when you have, for example, somebody punching you in the face, it does kind of help to be fully there. So
I think I'd rather not be there, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that I've designed the sessions for the weekend that it's really accessible. So you don't need to have any background in anything. You don't need to be fit. You can just come in. It's going to be very fun. It's going to be playful. I'm going to challenge everybody, of course, but the number one thing that I want to see happen is people walk away from the session and go, you know what, I actually have a couple of things that I can put into play when I go to work on Monday morning, and when I'm faced with stress again, or my boss that's just been aggravating me, and I can actually deal with this more effectively.
So you think there is a close link between, as you say, some martial arts, which are very much associated with the East, I guess, as is sort of a lot of the mindfulness aspects and sort of yogic practices and such like. Is it no coincidence that they both hail in many ways from the same part and also have this thing about maybe being more in the present and being more aware of the self?
Absolutely. In martial arts, you start to realize that it's only in the present moment that you're able to deal with what's coming at you. You can kind of think about what went wrong, or you can project into the future, but that doesn't change the experience that's happening in front of you, especially when you're dealing with an opponent. So being fully present really helps you deal with that situation more effectively. And it really is in the present moment where you're able to have the most and the best part of your experience. Most of us tend to live in the past, or we're projecting in the future. And that's really where most of our stress comes from. And a lot of what we're going to do on the weekend, and what I'm going to do, builds into Ian's work too, because he was talking about the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight response. Most people are in a kind of sympathetic over-dominance all the time, even though they may not be recognizing that. Their anxiety levels are always running. It's like literally you could imagine that you got home and you left your car on and it just ran all night long. That's how most people are experiencing life. And so what mindfulness does, and even through the martial art experience, is it teaches you how to calm yourself, how to bring in what Ian mentioned, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your calming state. And one of the ways of doing that is, one, getting a handle of how you think and being more present. But second to that is the aspect of breathing. And breathing is really important, because breathing is the one way that we know through medical science, specifically the out breath, and we'll focus on that on the weekend, is the one way to actually engage that calming aspect of your autonomic nervous system. So it's an essential tool. I think most people just don't know this, and that's the key thing to come to an event like this, is that you actually open yourself and have an open mind and come in to learn some new ideas and maybe look at the world in a different way and your experiences in a different way, and walk away with some tools that you can actually apply.
And do you think there's been an increased interest in this of late? Because obviously a lot of people have been stuck in lockdown, as witnessed by yourself, stuck here. So to a degree, people have been forced, or through one way or another, to spend more time with themselves, to think more about themselves. Equally, a lot of people have become far more interested in ways of coping with stress, like being locked down.
I think one of the things for sure is that, when you keep going all the time, you feel like you're on a hamster wheel. And one thing that COVID has done is it's allowed people to sit with themselves. And I think for the first time for a lot of people, they've actually realized how stressed they really are. We get so used to it because the human body is so adaptable. It can adapt almost to any kind of environment. If you think about what Ian's doing and putting people in ice baths, there's a good example, right? You can adapt with the right kind of mindset and training. So we adapt to our stress. And it's only when we take time out, when we're actually able to be with ourselves in silence, that we start to realize how negative that effect is of always being on that treadmill that we call life, and always going from one place to the next as fast as we possibly can, meeting deadlines. And then we realize that we have this low level of anxiety that has been there, but we've never been aware of it. And I think one thing that's beautiful about this experience, if we can say it, that, and I know it's been very stressful for a lot of people, but it has actually given people an opportunity to reconnect with themselves. And so definitely I've seen an upsurge in people wanting to know more about mindfulness.
And so, Mike, this is great, isn't it? Because, just a few months ago, we were thinking this wasn't going to happen at all, this festival. And not only is it now happening on Saturday, but you have fabulous guest speakers from all over the world that we didn't necessarily think was going to happen, which is wonderful. And a great time for this to happen. It's all sort of fallen into place, really, hasn't it?
It feels like that. And of course, the idea with Mindful Mann is always that it's not just about sitting around omming, or it's not just, that's okay, but it's not just that. It's about actively changing your life. And as Rodney said and as Ian said, you'll be exposed, you'll be challenged, you'll hear new ideas, new perspectives that perhaps we haven't come across on Saturday, and they're all there to be tools to literally change your life. I know from the last couple of years, people said that they were having their minds blown, their minds expanded. But for me, that's the whole point of this festival. It's not just it's not like a nice well-being festival, but it's active in changing people's lives.
Fantastic. So if anyone's listening to this now and they're thinking, oh, I really need a little bit of this, how and when and where do they attend the Mindful Mann Festival?
So yes, it's this Saturday. It's an all-day event. Tickets are £70. It's limited numbers this year, so it's a slightly more focused event. So there are tickets still available, but they're kind of limited, and they're going quite quickly at the moment. So tickets are £70, and it's at the Children's Centre Farm. So we're running it in partnership with the Children's Centre this year, and it's from about 9 o'clock till about 5:30. And after Rodney's keynote, there'll be some music. There's food and drink all day from the Alpine, Black Dog Oven, and Flo the Coffee Van. And hopefully it'll be a nice community of people all interested in these kinds of tools and things like that.